Oh man, Drake was perfect on that track.
I don't think so, man.
Well, who do you think?
Kanye, of course.
Kanye shouldn't even been on the track.
No, Kanye's always been persistent.
Wait, that's my phone. Can you grab that?
Sure.
Thanks.
Hello? Yeah. Okay.
Who was that?
Miss Andrews' manager. They're downstairs.
Miss Andrews' manager?
Yeah, and they're downstairs.
Whatever. She doesn't have a manager.
She's big time, buddy.
No, she's not.
She is now.
No, she's not.
It looks like.
It's one of her boys.
Oh, okay. Let's go check it out.
No, it's not. Watch this. Watch this.
Telling you, let's go check it out. Let's go see.
She's your queen to be, a queen to be forever, a queen who'll do whatever His Highness desires. She's your queen to be, a vision of perfection, an object of affection to quench your royal fire, completely free from infection, to be used in your
Helena, thank you so much for coming.
It's Helena.
direction, your queen.
Helena Andrews, it is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you on. I want to start with a very interesting story, at
Okay.
least interesting to me.
Okay.
So I was talking to a very good friend of mine yesterday morning, right? And he said, you know, what are you doing for the weekend? I said, Helena Andrews is coming. I'm going to interview her. He said, oh, wow, Helena, the woman from the Washington Post.
Uh-huh.
And I said, yeah, the woman from the Washington Post. And what's crazy is this guy doesn't even know who Drake is, but he knows you.
Okay.
Right? So I want to find out, how have you taken, or how do you feel about all the notoriety that's come from the Washington Post piece?
I thought in my mind, like, maybe, you know, we'll sneak under the radar a bit and it might be interesting and, you know, some people will read it and get it. I didn't think it would be like, you know, I had friends who were like, oh, somebody sent me this 5 times, or, oh, this is everywhere today, and a lot of people blogged about it. You did something about it. The Post piece came about because there had been some buzz about the movie that I'm doing now with Shonda Rhimes executive producing, who's the creator of Grey's Anatomy. So they had found out about that, and the reporter for the Post also had seen some of my stuff for The Root, which is a property of the Washington Post company. And she was interested just kind of in my story, how I got the book made, how, you know, what the book was going to be about, the fact that we were doing this movie with Shonda Rhimes, who's, you know, a huge heavyweight player in Hollywood, and she was thinking, this kid, basically 29, like, how'd you get there? So that was the original premise of the story. It was kind of like, how did you get to this point?
Interesting. So you said original premise of the story,
yes.
right? Because Successful, Black and Lonely was the article title.
Yes, which I did write.
Right. Well, here's my question is how much of that was straight out of Helena Andrews' mouth, and how much of that was editorialized? In
journalism, people talk often about if it bleeds, it leads.
Okay.
Meaning, you know, if it bleeds, it leads. You know, if it's sexy, if it's salacious, that's what you go with. And right now, that is what is sexy and salacious about Black women like me, is that we're lonely and single and, you know, desperately trying to seek love. But I think when you read the quote in the article where I talk about loneliness, I never talk about loneliness in conjunction with being single.
Being single. Interesting.
I talk about loneliness in conjunction, I think, most of us who are, you know, grown-ups now, right? You get to a point, and it's not, in the article, it quoted me as saying it was a quarter-life crisis, but the rest of that quote was, I don't like to call it a quarter-life crisis because that sounds lame.
The rest of the quote that was not included.
That was not there, right? I don't like to call it a quarter-life crisis because I think we already went through that. You know, because I write about this in the book as well. After I graduated from Columbia, I thought, what's next? Like, it was hard, you know what I mean? Because they're like, get out of the dorms, like, back to life. And you didn't live in the real world for so long. And I was left in New York by myself. I'm from Los Angeles. So that was hard. I think that was my quarter-life crisis. And then once you kind of shift through that and you decide, this is what I'm going to do, this is my career path, and you go, I think for a lot of black women with this internal GPS system, I call it, like, here, 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 here. You keep it moving, which is a lot of black women say to each other, right? Keep it moving.
But is that just black women, or you think all women have that same internal GPS?
I think a lot of women have it, and I think a lot of women, I don't like to call it post-feminist, but like women who were like these 80s, 90s babies who came after women's lib, whose mothers were burning bras or who knows what in college. And then you're like a product of not only that type of mindset, but then this other mindset that's creeping in. Rebecca Walker, Alice Walker's daughter, has written a lot about it, who self-describes as a feminist, right? But writes about wanting marriage and wanting a baby and those types of things. Like, that has to be a part of how we define success as well.
Really, how much of that article, though, was you? You know, I think what rubbed a lot of people the wrong way was, for example, cornrows, right? I mean, tell us about that. Tell us about, I mean, were those stories accurate, or was that editorialized?
No, anything I was quoted as saying, believe me, I said, you know, I can be a jerk. You know what I mean? I do say, I said I'm single. I didn't say I was a saint. You know, I didn't say I was perfect. Okay, we call him that for like, whatever, a myriad of reasons. But also because I knew he doesn't have cornrows. You know, I knew he
doesn't have cornrows.
No, he's a lawyer. Not that lawyers can't have cornrows, but I'm saying he's a lawyer.
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
So cornrows in the story, you know, I thought cornrows, you know, cornrows.
A blue collar worker, which I have absolutely no problem with. Like, that's not, I don't know too many women, my friends who are single, who say to themselves, oh, he has to have this, this, and this, and this, and this. He has to, you know, be an Ivy League graduate and be making six figures. And I think that's old. I think the list is old.
You know what's fascinating about this dialogue we're having is that this is totally not the impression I got. Totally not the impression I got when I read the piece.
Yeah, it's hard to get that impression from me, I think, because I can, you know, I'm not PC. I don't talk and, you know, I don't like to over-explain things all the time. I'm not the most PC person. I say ridiculous things. Me and my friend call some guy cornrows, you know, but, you know, when you're around your friends, who doesn't have a nickname for someone they used to date or is currently dating that you say to your friends and it's funny and blah, blah, blah. But I also knew he wouldn't know who I was talking about because that is rude. You know, I wasn't going to say, well, John Smith, who works down
Smith,
here.
An attorney at so-and-so and so-and-so.
You know, that's terrible. I would never do that. So I think that got misconstrued, but I can totally understand why.
Why? So a lot was misconstrued with that piece.
I think so.
If you can go back, right, and change time, would you still have done the piece?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, why?
I definitely would have still done it. I think because it created, number one, it created a lot of buzz about my book. I mean, to be honest, and that's, you know, when you write a book, I didn't write it so me and you can read it. I wrote it so a lot of people can read it.
Let's talk about the book. Bitch is the New Black.
Yes.
Okay. Before we actually get into the book, let's talk about just the title, right? Because I have to be honest. When I heard that title, it rubbed me the wrong way, right? It rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Why the title?
I expected it to rub people the wrong way. When I first heard it, when Tina Fey said it, it rubbed me the wrong way.
Right.
But that doesn't, like I said, I'm not PC. That doesn't deter me from wanting to not appropriate the word bitch. I'm not expecting a bunch of people to walk around with signs that say bitch is the new black, you know, marching down Pennsylvania Avenue. I didn't expect that at all. I think I was interested in it, number one, because Tina Fey said it in reference to Hillary Clinton, who's someone I admire, who I think is a powerful, smart, accomplished woman. And she kind of just scrunched her down, you know, zipped her up into the word bitch. And she thought that was acceptable. And I thought it was just interesting that you can talk about a successful woman that way, and it makes sense to some people, right?
What about the stereotypes?
There are a lot of books with very provocative titles. There's Mark Mathabane's Kaffir Boy, which is a derogatory term for Africans in apartheid South Africa, and that is his autobiography of growing up in apartheid South Africa. There's Audre Lorde's Zammy, a new spelling of my name. Zammy is a derogatory Caribbean term for a black and lesbian woman, which is her autobiography of being a woman growing up in Harlem of Caribbean descent who was also a lesbian. So though I find it interesting when you slap a book with that title, and people will have very visceral reactions to it.
Sure.
I think just like they have a visceral reaction to that Post article, just like they might have a visceral reaction to me when you see me walking down the street. You don't know me, like the man who's like, smile. Why can't you smile more? You know,
Right. No mean mugging.
Exactly.
That's what I say, no mean mugging.
But you know what? I think you can have that perception of something or someone right on, but then when you peel back the layers or read their book, that perception, that stereotype might turn itself on its head.
Your relationship with your father, if that shaped how you view men,